Ever found an old camera at a flea market? You know, the dusty, forgotten kind, tucked away in a box of old postcards and rusty tools. I did. It was a vintage Polaroid, a beautiful piece of history. I bought it for a few bucks, thinking it would make a cool decoration for my apartment. I even managed to find some old film for it online, just for fun. The first picture I took was of my cat, Mittens, sleeping on the couch. But when the photo developed, it wasn't of Mittens. It showed her, wide-eyed and terrified, hiding under my bed. Weird, I thought. A glitch in the old film, maybe. A few minutes later, a loud thunderclap shook the building, and Mittens, just like in the photo, shot under the bed, terrified. Coincidence, right? The next day, I was heading out to meet a friend. I snapped a quick selfie before leaving. The picture that came out was unsettling. It showed me drenched, with my shirt torn, standing by the side of a busy road. I looked angry and frustrated. I shook my head, deciding the camera was just faulty, and left. On my way, a car sped through a huge puddle, soaking me completely. I stumbled back, catching my shirt on a thorny bush, ripping it. There I was, just like in the photo. It wasn't a glitch. This camera, it didn't just take pictures. It showed the future. My heart pounded. This was incredible. Frightening, but incredible. I could see what was coming. I could prepare. I could change things, or so I thought. The next few days were a blur of experimentation. A photo of my empty fridge would prompt me to go grocery shopping before I ran out of food. A picture of a traffic jam on my usual route to work sent me down a different street, saving me an hour. It was like having a superpower, but there was a darker side. A picture of my neighbor's dog limping preceded a nasty fall it took down the stairs. A photo of my friend crying came true when she called me with bad news an hour later. The camera didn't just show my future. It showed glimpses of what was to come for anyone in its lens. And it was never wrong. I started to feel a creeping dread every time I held it. What if it showed me something truly awful? Something I couldn't stop? One night, curiosity and a little bit of fear got the better of me. I decided to look up the camera's model online. It took hours of digging through old forums and obscure collector sites, but I finally found it. It was a rare prototype called the Cassandra, and I wasn't the first owner. There were stories, whispers, really dating back to the 1950s. The first owner was a journalist in New York. He used it to get scoops, predicting building fires and traffic accidents. He became famous. Then, one day, he took a picture of himself. The photo showed him lying at the bottom of a flight of stairs, his neck at an unnatural angle. He laughed it off as a prank by his colleagues. The next day, he was found dead, having slipped on a wet step. The camera then passed to a soldier in the 60s. The photos he took in the jungle showed ambush before they happened, saving his platoon multiple times. He was hailed as a hero with a sixth sense. His final photo, however, showed an empty, smoke-filled field. He disappeared on patrol that day and was never seen again. In the 80s, a stockbroker in Tokyo had it. She made a fortune, taking pictures of the trading floor, seeing which stocks would soar and which would plummet. She was on top of the world until she took a photo of herself in her office. The image that developed showed her standing on the ledge of her skyscraper window. She sold all her stocks the next day, gave her fortune away, and was admitted to a psychiatric hospital, screaming about a photo that was trying to kill her. She spent the rest of her life there. Every owner's story ended the same way. A final, horrifying photo, followed by an inescapable fate. The camera didn't just predict the future. It sealed it. And now it was my turn. My hands were shaking as I held the Cassandra. I knew what I had to do, or rather what I couldn't do. I couldn't take a picture of myself, ever. I had to resist the temptation. I hid the camera away, shoving it into the back of my closet, buried under old clothes. I tried to forget about it, to go back to my normal, unpredictable life. But it was like an itch I couldn't scratch. The knowledge of its power, of what it could show me, gnawed at me. Days turned into weeks. Life was mundane. I missed the thrill, the certainty. The fear was replaced by a strange, compelling curiosity. What would my final photo look like? The question echoed in my mind, a morbid obsession. I fought it, I really did. I went on dates, worked on projects, tried to live. But the camera called to me. One sleepless night I gave in. My heart hammered against my ribs as I retrieved the box from my closet. The camera felt cold in my trembling hands. I loaded the last piece of film I had. This would be it, one final look. I closed my eyes, held the camera at arm's length, and pressed the button. The whirring sound was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. The photo slid out. I was too afraid to look at it. I placed it face down on my desk, my breath catching in my throat. I told myself to walk away, to rip it up without looking. But I couldn't. My fate was lying right there, on a small piece of developing paper. With a deep, shuddering breath, I reached out and flipped it over. The image slowly materialized. It was dark, blurry. But then details began to emerge. It was a room I didn't recognize. Dark, stone walls, dripping with moisture. There was a single bare light bulb hanging from a wire, casting long, dancing shadows, and in the center of the room, on the floor, was me, or what was left of me. I looked ancient. My skin was thin, like paper stretched over my bones. My hair was gone. My eyes were sunken into my skull. But the most terrifying part? In my skeletal hands I was holding a camera. This camera, and I was pointing it right back at the lens. The photo showed me, at the end of my life, taking a picture of myself taking a picture. A perfect, inescapable loop. I dropped the photo, stumbling backward. My apartment suddenly felt like a cage. The walls were closing in. The loop, it meant I would never get rid of the camera. I would keep it, hold on to it for the rest of my long, drawn-out life until I became that thing in the photo, a prisoner to this cursed object, destined to wither away with it in my hands. I looked at the Cassandra on my desk. It seemed to mock me, its lens like a cold, black eye staring into my soul. I had to break the loop. I had to do something the photo didn't show. I grabbed the camera, ran out of my apartment, and drove to the highest bridge in the city. The wind whipped around me as I stood on the edge, the camera heavy in my hand. The photo showed me in a stone room, not on a bridge. If I jumped, I would break the prophecy. It was a terrifying thought, but it was better than the slow decay the photo promised. But as I stood there, looking down at the dark water, a new thought chilled me to the bone. What if the photo wasn't literal? What if the stone room was a metaphor for a prison of my own making, a state of mind, my obsession? And what if this act of desperation, this moment on the bridge, was part of the path to get me there? Maybe trying to escape my fate was the very thing that would lead me to it. I backed away from the edge, my mind racing. I couldn't destroy it. I couldn't get rid of it. I was trapped. I went back to my car, the camera on the passenger seat. As I drove, I kept glancing at it. I pulled over and picked it up. Maybe there was another way. The camera only showed the future. It never showed how it happened. There were always missing pieces. Perhaps the loop wasn't about me dying, but about me passing it on. I drove to the flea market where I'd found it. The same old man was there, packing up his stall. I walked up to him and placed the camera in a box of old junk, just like the one I'd found it in. "No charge," I said, my voice hoarse. "Just a donation." He just grunted and nodded. I walked away without looking back, a huge weight lifted from my shoulders. For the first time in months, I felt free. The future was a blank page again, and it was exhilarating. I don't know who will find the camera next. I don't know what their final photo will be, but I do know one thing. Some stories are doomed to repeat themselves. And as I walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere, in a dusty old box, a camera was waiting to show someone else their end. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy stories that get under your skin, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon. You never know what you might find.